Ajahn Chah once famously said that the Dhamma would flourish in future in the West. And most people assume that to mean Europe, America, and so on. Myself, I interpreted this to mean the west of Isan in northeast Thailand, meaning Pak Chong and Wang Nam Kio. So it's the western extreme of northeast Thailand. So seeing you all come here today from different parts of the world, very refreshing, and just as the lay Buddhists see the Sangha practicing well and of good and inspiring deportment, and obviously devoted to the holy life, it's uplifting for you, and similarly for Sangha when we see lay Buddhists who are obviously willing to make big sacrifices and time and money to travel to places far away to spend time developing their meditation practice and their understanding of Dhamma. That's very inspiring for us as well. And it's a testament to the structure that the Buddha established with his great wisdom and compassion, in one in which the different groups of that constitute the fourfold assembly can support and inspire each other. So we've come together for a few days. It's a short time, but it's a time in which one of the things that we can come to an understanding of is time itself. And in the first day, the time can go very slowly, and then it speeds up. By the end of the retreat, it's rattling along at a fair pace. But the first day, at least, of the retreat, for most people, a bit of a struggle, and be patient with that. It's a struggle because you're changing so much at such a short notice in terms of, for many of you, time you go to bed at night, time you get up in the morning, the amount of time you're sitting on the floor, the amount of time you're meditating. And so there's a certain stress in that changeover, and it's difficult to get the same amount of sleep also, and often these kinds of disruptions and changes do have some effect, and be patient with that. There's a certain amount of physical discomfort, usually in the first day. So there's physical pain to deal with, there's some mental agitation and sleepiness. And the mental agitation and the sleepiness tend to alternate. So for those of you who've been on retreats before, that's have some experience of this, just bear with it, and how you feel about the obstacles that arise in practice are part of the practice. This is a point they're making, and there's nothing outside of the practice. Your evaluation of the practice or your feelings about the practice your feelings right now, whether there's anticipation or some nervousness or some concerns and worries, fears, all these different emotions that can come up, they're also part of it. And include everything within your practice. And observe particularly the ways of thinking about what you're doing here, why you're doing it. Certain ways of thinking are very helpful to practice, and others are obstructive. A very clear example is when we allow gaining ideas and expectations, things that we hope to get, want to get from these few days. That sets the mind up in a grasping attitude which undermines the practice. So developing wise, supportive motivation for practice is an essential, a fundamental plank of our practice itself. And when the emphasis is on the work itself, the effort itself, the practice itself, shifting the focus to the creation of supportive conditions, rather than striving to realize the results of practice, then we can see immediately there's a relaxation, and it's a helpful relaxation. It's a cliche in sports and many competitive endeavors where coaches and people say, just go out there and enjoy yourself, but there's something to that also in meditation. Just enjoy the process, and it's no measure of you have to realize and achieve something, but this is an opportunity to put effort into the conditions for peace and wisdom, understanding. And find a joy, find a pleasure in that, the purity of one's intention to put this work into the Dhamma practice. And Ajahn Chah's simile, it's like planting a tree, and we choose the right spot to plant our tree, and then we water the tree, we protect it from bugs, and we do what we can do. But the tree will grow quickly or slowly, the fruits will be bitter or sweet. These are things beyond our control. So we focus on those things that we do have some influence over, and let go of those things which are just in the nature things. We're not starting off with a blank slate in our lives or in our Dhamma practice. We are all influenced by actions in the past. In the past, that might mean this morning or yesterday or last year or in childhood even, but it also can mean events, actions, volitional actions in past lives. And so this is like an immeasurable quality. There's no way that we can estimate to what extent we've done this work before and how well supported we will be by that past effort. And this is just one of the many reasons why comparing ourselves with others or even competing with others makes no sense at all. We're all starting off from different places, and some things are easy for us and difficult for other people. Some things are difficult for us and easy for others. So be very wary of comparing yourself with others in Dhamma practice, and learn to develop this appreciation of the hard work that everyone's putting in to their meditation and their efforts to free themselves from defilement. So we started off with a period of chanting this evening, and chanting is a wonderful meditation. It's one which very useful to calm the mind down. For lay Buddhists, if you're entering your meditation space after a busy day, to make that transition from all the concerns and responsibilities and worries that you may have to a mind which is ready to develop the meditation and clarity and insight of the mind, then the chanting can provide a very good means of transition, and it brings up some really wholesome mental states. So the chanting can be in the Pali, where you usually won't understand the meaning, but the rhythm of the Pali, the beauty of the language, and the mindfulness of creating those sounds and chanting in a group, of harmonizing with other people, is a way of putting down the hindrances. And particularly when we come from so many different places, some of us know each other, some of us don't, but observe how chanting together brings an immediate sense of community to a diverse group of people. And that's one of the important benefits of chanting. So there's mindfulness practice, there's creating an immediate sense of harmony with others. It's a transition and an initial kind of meditation practice, mindfulness practice. Also, if you learn these chants by heart and you learn the translations, then you'll often find in daily life that there's something happens, and from somewhere, from nowhere, from deep inside, the words of the chanting just appear in your mind. And it's as if you've got a teacher just carrying around within you. So now, after the meditation, of course, we'll be talking about meditation a lot more over the next few days. But I'd like to just talk a little bit about the precepts and ceremonies in general. I think people are very uninformed or too dismissive of ceremonies. And I know in my generation of Western Buddhists, then a lot of us came from a rejection of monotheistic religion, Christianity, and ritual. And in fact, that's not confined to the Western Buddhists. In the late 19th century revival of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, there was the efforts to draw a line between Buddhism and Christianity, and the rejection of was seen as kind of irrational Christianity in favor of rational Buddhism, sometimes left to we say throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and the beauty of ritual and the emotional uplift that comes from ritual, well practiced, was I think lost for many people. So ritual is something that is not primarily aimed at increasing your intellectual knowledge of Buddhism, and it's a misdirected criticism to conclude on those grounds that it's a waste of time, but it has an emotional effect. And we need to learn skillful ways of enlisting emotion on the path. This path is not a rejection of emotion, it's an education of emotion, it's a harnessing of emotion. And rituals and ceremonies, when they are performed with right view and with purity of heart, then they can be very moving and memorable. And when all the hairs on your arms stand up and you just feel tears in your eyes, and this is a way to tap into that well of emotion we have and enlist it on the path of Dhamma. The precepts themselves, the 8 precepts, these are renunciant precepts. So if we examine the differences between the 5 precepts and the 8 precepts, then with the 5 precepts, these are renunciation of bad karma, basically. Bad karma that can have devastating effects on your life, your family life, and your future lives. And the 5 precepts give you a safety net. As long as you're keeping 5 precepts, even if you lose your mindfulness, you do stupid things, say stupid things that you regret afterwards, it's recoverable. It's not a big deal. But once you start compromising on even one of the 5 precepts, you're on very shaky ground, and you're in danger, basically. So the 5 precepts are a function of keeping the 5 precepts is a function of wisdom. And in the scriptures we have this teaching where sila and wisdom are compared to 2 hands, and they cleanse each other. So when you're washing your hands, your left hand washes your right hand, and your right hand washes your left hand. And the teaching is that sila washes wisdom, and what wisdom washes sila. So they improve, they develop together. Indeed, if we want like a short snapshot or idea of somebody's wisdom, which obviously we can't see with the naked eye, but we can say that anyone who doesn't keep the 5 precepts is not a wise person in Buddhist understanding of that word. because if you really understand the way things are, you have a clear grasp of the law of karma, there's no way you would break any of those precepts. The only way that you can break one of those 5 precepts is through ignorance of the way things are or defilement in the mind. So the 5 precepts are directly mapped onto the way things are and the law of karma. But when we go on to the 8 precepts, that's no longer the case. It's obviously not immoral to eat after midday. And the 8 precepts, the increase of the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and the change of the 3rd from refraining from sexual misconduct to refraining from all sexual conduct, are ways of increasing the clarity, the focus of mind. These are renunciation precepts. For instance, for example, refraining from eating afternoon frees up more time for meditation, and it frees up more energy in the body. You're not having to expend energy on digesting food. And for those people who keep 8 precepts for a longer period of time, or monastics, will observe how abstaining from the evening meal enhances clarity of mind in the evenings, night times, but also means that the body needs less sleep at night. So this is my observation, at least, that eating in the evening consumes energy, and you have to restore that energy through sleep, not eating. You don't need so much sleep. The 7th precept is probably the most challenging one. Giving up beautification of the body, not so much, and I think maybe for many people it's kind of like a relief and a rest, and not having to worry so much about physical appearance and how we are seen by others. And that's it's a luxury, I think, for many people, if you think about it. So we're not interested in how we are appearing to others, how we're not projecting anything, not trying to be anybody, we're just here to practice the Dhamma. We are Kalyana Mittas, we're good friends, and that's it. And you can see that it's a renunciation, but it's also like a lightening of the load that you need to carry around with you. It's a good thing. But the really difficult one, obviously for most people these days, is abstaining from use of telephone and from social media in particular, and all the things that we're hooked up to and which occupy so much of our time these days. So there's no question of returning to an age in which these things are not part of our lives, and even monastics, including myself, make use of these things. But having certain periods of time, and it might be, for example, every Uposta day, twice a month, or every Sabbath, one Prat day, so 4 times a month, and just putting those things down for 24-hour period as a way of just observing, just how difficult that is and how much attachment there is. And then for longer periods of time, where you can experience what it's like to be without them altogether and not to miss them at all. And the options and the possibilities that opens up in the mind. Certainly the amount of information that we take into our brains these days is unprecedented in human history for sure. And it's no wonder that the brain rebels and there are all kinds of mental disorders throughout society these days. So understanding how these things work and understanding and recognizing our relationship to these things, how healthy it is or how toxic it is, this is something that we can really learn on a retreat like this. So eating one meal a day, sleeping only minimum, the precept is, that eighth precept is expressed in terms of high and luxurious beds, but I think that what we can take from that is we're not looking to enjoy the pleasures of sleep and rest, and we take rest as a medicine. The body needs to sleep. All kinds of things start going wrong with the body if it's deprived of sleep over any length of time. But we're looking to find the right amount. In Thai we say podi, or in Pali is matanyutta. So what's the right amount? And abstaining from social media and all these other worldly activities and shows and enjoyments and music and movies and all these things. We're not saying these are evil or necessarily great obstructions to Dhamma practice, but what we're trying to learn is how much is podi, how much is just right. Not too much, not too little. Lay life, it's all right to listen to a little bit of music or watch a movie or something, not the end of the world, but the sense of having that sense of what effect does it have on my mind. And maybe you'll find after a while you just don't have any interest in those things anymore. Well, that's fine, but in lay life, maybe you sacrifice. I've myself gone back to visit my family and sat down with young nieces and nephews and watched a cartoon and enjoyed it, really, just because sometimes these activities are expressions of relationship with those the loved ones, and that without those then we can feel cut off adrift and they feel abandoned by us. So not to be too kind of doctrinaire and dogmatic about these things. In the 8 precepts, the 5 precepts is a different matter. You can be dogmatic about the 5 precepts, but not about the 8. And but here we're relieved of all those things, and we can see that reducing the amount of information that comes into our brains reduces the amount of mental activity. And reducing the amount of mental activity is a definite aid to meditation practice. So being able to see very clearly the influence of how we behave, how we act, and what we give attention to, and the content of our mind and the general well-being of our mind. These are things that we can learn on retreat. A meditation practice, which doesn't lie in the precepts and is not generally considered like a kammatthana or a meditation object, but that is keeping silent. And keeping silent is such a powerful practice, such an incredible form of meditation that I'm always surprised when how many people, especially on I must say on Thai retreats, how many people fail to grasp just how helpful this is, because there are certain things that we can give up altogether. Okay, say things like alcohol, for example. You just, okay, no more alcohol or no more cigarettes, and you just cut them out of your life. I mean, it's possible, not easy, but it's possible. But you can't cut speech out of your life unless you're living on a desert island. And so how do you develop right speech? Now, going from wrong speech to right speech is really difficult. But when you have periods of no speech at all, you can make a fresh start. And in particular, you can become aware of the intention to speak as a mental object that arises and passes away. This is why it's a wisdom practice as well. So when you make that firm determination not to speak, and then something comes up, and you kind of itch, you want to say something, but then you can observe, what is that? Why exactly do I want to say this? And what do I want to say? And so you have a really unique opportunity to recognize the intention to speak and all of the psychological underpinning for speech, and how much of speech is sharing information, useful information, and expression of kindness, of goodwill, or whatever, and how much is really pointless and just to fill up silence, and basically waste of breath. So not speaking, not acting upon the impulse to speak, again reduces mental agitation significantly. That's something that's very easily observed. But also it is a wonderful opportunity to have some real insight into your own mind and what brings up the desire to speak, and why and what for, and so there's a lot to learn. So for me, one of the key insights in my life as a Buddhist practitioner was this recognition that the Eightfold Path and the Buddhist teachings are essentially an education system, the most profound and comprehensive and effective education system that the world has ever seen, and that the unique feature of human birth is our capacity for learning, and that we are most essentially human when we are learning. The Buddha referred to the Eightfold Path in its shortened form as Sikha, which means training or education. The education of conduct, the education of the heart, the education of wisdom. And the Sotapanna, the Sakadagami, the Anagami, the first three groups of the enlightened Sangha, the enlightened beings, they are the learners. and there are people who learn from experience. And so for all those who have not yet realized that first level, then we're learning how to learn, learning how to become learners. And so we don't learn from experience because of defilement. And the more that we let go of defilements, the more we enhance, we improve our ability to learn from our experience. And I think this is a very good way of looking at practice overall, but also of practice during a retreat. So we come here to learn, not to get something, not to get peace, not to get wisdom, it's not a gaining practice, but we're here to learn. We're here to learn about the five khandhas, our five khandhas. We're going to learn the Buddha's teachings, learn how to apply them, learn about the difficulties that appear when we try to apply them, learn about ways of dealing skillfully with those difficulties. So whatever the results of this retreat may be, this is where we can be sure that we will make this a worthwhile few days together, because we're going to learn a lot together and really find joy in learning. And then whatever the results of that learning, that's a bonus, but find the joy in the learning itself. So these are a few introductory remarks I share with you this evening.
Namayang Uvarakatha Sadhu Karang Dathamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
So I'll pay respects to the Triple Gem together. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivade Suvakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami.
Please bow together 3 times.